Alright guys, today we're going to be talking about Texas rigging your duck decoys. But before we get into the actual video, I want to ask you guys another question like I've been doing in the past couple videos because I love to hear your guys' feedback. So I want to know, what kind of projects are you guys working on this off season in order to prepare for your next season, or what kind of changes are you making for next season? We bought a boat this year. If you haven't seen a video of that, I'll put it up here somewhere and also leave a link down in the description. But for us, that project's just about done. And I have a couple more small projects like re-rigging all of our decoys and some other small projects. So what kind of stuff are you guys working on? Let me know down in the comments below. Alright, so what is a Texas rig? A Texas rig is where you have a loop at one end of your line, then you have a weight at the other end of the line, and then your decoy is going to slide between the two of those. Another way to Texas rig your decoys is to have a loop at one end, your decoy at the other end, and then your weight is going to slide along the line between the two of those. Today though, we're going to be talking about the method in which the decoy slides along the line because this is a style that I prefer to use. In this video, I'm not going to get real in-depth on the pros and cons between Texas rigging and standard rigging. If that is something that you guys would like to see, let me know and I'm more than happy to make something like that. I just don't want this video to be too long with a lot of rambling on. But I do still want to hit on a couple of the advantages of Texas rigging. First of all, you're going to be using a fairly heavy line that's going to be stiffer than your nylon line that you're using for standard rigs. So these lines are going to be virtually tangle-free. The second advantage is whenever you pick up the line to throw it out, your decoy and the weight are both going to be sitting down at the bottom. So it's very easy to throw this out there, and both the decoy and the weight stay together so you can launch it a considerable distance out there. And then whenever you go to pick up the decoy, your loop is going to be sitting right next to the keel. So all you have to do is pick it up, throw it on a carabiner or on your thumb, and walk around and pick up your decoys. You don't have to sit there and wrap your line around your keels. So you can really pick up a spread really quickly. So if you're interested in putting together some Texas rigs for yourself, let's go ahead and get into it. I'm going to show you everything that you're going to need, and all of this stuff is going to be available on Amazon, and I'll have Amazon affiliate links down in the description below. So if you use those links to purchase your products, it will give me a little bit of a kickback, and it's just another way to show your support to me. So if you do use those links, thank you for using them. Alright, so for line, I'm using 400-pound monofilament. If you really wanted to, you could go up to 500 or 600, but I feel like 400 is just fine, but I would not go below the 400 mark. And this stuff is available in clear or black, and I think they even have some other colors. I don't think it really matters which color you use. Unless you're hunting really clear water, you might want to go with the clear monofilament. This year I'm going to be going with the black. I think it's a little bit cleaner, but really the ducks don't care how pretty my rigs look. This stuff runs $20 for 100 yards, so that's going to be enough to do 60-65 decoys, so this stuff goes quite a long ways. Also included with your line is 50 of these double barrel copper crimps, and you are going to need these crimps because they're used to secure the loop and the weight at the end of your decoys. So you're going to need 2 of these per line, and like I said, there's 50 in here, so that's enough to do 25 decoys. But you're going to want to plan on scrapping a couple of these because you might mess up every now and then and need to redo them. So you can buy more of these and you can get 100 for $10. Up next is your weights, and this is generally going to be the most expensive part of your rigs. The size weight you choose is completely up to you. I've found that for teal and smaller mallards like Green Headgear Hot Buys, 3 ounces is plenty, and then I use 4 ounce for more of a full-size mallard like Green Headgear Pro grades. I know a lot of guys like to use more like a 6 ounce weight on theirs, but last year I didn't have any problems with these 4 ounces. If you're doing some goose rigs, you're probably going to want 8, maybe even 10 ounces on those. These weights are available in a 5-pound box, so the size weight that you choose is going to affect the quantity that you get. If you get the 3 ounce, you're going to get 26 weights. If you get the 4 ounce, you're going to get 20. If you choose 6 ounce, you're going to get 13, and so on and so forth. An alternative to buying the weights is you could pour your own. I haven't quite ventured into doing that yet, but that is an option if you're looking to save some money. As far as the weight style, I like to use the bank sinker style weights as opposed to egg-shaped weights. Mushroom-shaped weights are also a good option. The last three items are essential items that you're going to need in order to rig up your decoys. These next few items, however, are things that aren't necessarily required, but I highly recommend them because they're going to make your life a lot easier. Alright, the first thing is going to be a carabiner, and you can use these to put the loop through and carry around your decoys. You can carry around a dozen decoys per carabiner. You can carry really as many as you're comfortable with, but I found a dozen is a really good number. I really like these nice big carabiners because you can get them with the foam on them, and you can just get your hand in there, grab a hold of them, and then throw the lines over your back to carry around your decoys. And these are around $8 for 2 of them. Next up is a swivel snap like this one. Last year I did not run a swivel. I was actually just running the line directly through the decoy, and what I found is that some of the decoys weren't sliding along that line very smoothly, and I would throw out a decoy and the line would not slide through the decoy. The weight would stay up at the top of the decoy like that, and then my decoy would float away. So the swivel allows for the decoy to slide along the line a lot more smoothly. It also allows us to unclip lines from a decoy and clip that same line onto another decoy very quickly and easily. So what I plan on doing this year is rigging all of my teal up with 3-ounce weights, and then whenever the teal move out and the mallards move in, I'll take all of those rigs off of my teal and put them on my hot buy mallards. These swivels are generally pretty pricey. They're usually around 40 to 50 cents per swivel. I got lucky though, and I found a 100-pack of them for $23. So at the time of making this video, that is still available and will be linked down below. Alright, last thing is going to be a gear tie like this one. This is a 10-inch gear tie. And what these are, it's basically just baling wire that is rubber coated. And what you're going to do with this is you're going to use it to tie up all of your decoy lines. So whenever you have 12 decoys or however many decoys you have on a carabiner, when you're carrying them around, each decoy is going to kind of flop around. So you're going to wrap this around all of your decoy lines and then slide it down towards the bottom, and it's going to hold all of your decoys in nice and compact and keep them from flying around. And these gear ties are $5 for 2 of the 10-inch ones. And whenever you untie your decoys, you can just loop it around your carabiner, and then you don't have to worry about losing that tie. Alright, so what's the cost on a setup like this? This is going to run you around $1.75 per rig. So that's per decoy. So that's going to be just under $21 per dozen for the rigs. And then if you want to consider 1 carabiner per dozen and 1 gear tie per dozen, that's going to bring you up to $27.50 per dozen. So if you're just interested in going out and buying some pre-made Texas rigs, the closest comparison to the ones I'm showing you today is going to be Lifetime decoys. The only real difference with theirs is they're using vinyl coated steel cable, but they're going to have the same length and the same weight that I'm making. But those are going to be $42.99 per dozen, and they do come with a carabiner, but they're not going to come with the gear tie. Rig 'em Right is another popular option. However, they use some different components. They're going to use a little bit cheaper looking swivel, and they're going to use some different weights. Also, the closest option they have to what I'm making today is going to be 18 inches shorter, and they're going to be $32.99 per dozen. And it does come with a carabiner, though it doesn't look like it's quite as big as this one or the one that is included with the Lifetime decoys. I'm not really sure. It doesn't say how big it is in the picture though. It doesn't look like it's big enough that you can get your hand in there. And again, that one also does not come with a gear tie. So if you're willing to go the do-it-yourself route, you're going to be able to save yourself anywhere from $10 to $20 per dozen. And if you have quite a few dozen decoys, that can add up pretty quickly. For me, I love the do-it-yourself route because I like to have some small projects to do throughout the off-season. Alright, so let's go ahead and get started putting all this together. You are going to need a couple things. You're going to need some kind of side cutters in order to cut your monofilament. Then you're also going to need a tape measure to measure out your line, and then you're going to need a hammer and an anvil so that you can smash your crimps. Alright, so the first thing you're going to want to do is measure out your line. I want my finished lines to be 48 inches, So I'm going to add another 8 inches on top of that for the thumb loop and for the loop that's going to hold the weight in. So I'm looking at 56 inches for my line. Alright, so you got your 56 inches measured out, and you're just going to come in and cut that off. And sometimes whenever you cut it off, it's going to leave kind of like an oval shaped end. So I have these crimpers that I'm going to use and just kind of reshape the end of the line just so that it slides through the crimps easier. Alright, so for the next steps, we're going to need to head out to the garage where the hammer and the anvil are at. You're going to want to take your crimps and your swivels and then your line with you. Alright, so now that you have your line cut, the first step after that is going to be to make your loop. So you're going to need to take one of your crimps, take your line, run it through one side of the crimp, loop it back around, and make it come back through the other side of the crimp. And then you're going to want to make sure that this tag end here is pushed back in flush with the crimp, otherwise it's going to get snagged on other decoys. And then you want to push this line through and make your loop big enough that you can get your thumb in there easily with some good room to spare in case you're wearing gloves. I already have one made up here, so I'm going to use that as a template for my next one. And I'll just try and get these as close as I can to the same size. That looks pretty good. My tag end is gone. So then I'm going to come over here to my anvil, take my hammer, and then I'm just going to pound this down a couple times. And then once you've hit it a couple times on one side, flip it over, make sure it's flat, and then just hit it a couple more times to make sure it's all nice and even. Alright, so I have that all hammered out now, and the reason why I hammer it as opposed to crimping it is because my crimper, or just about any crimper, actually crimps these barrels down too small, so my swivel here would actually slide over the top of my crimp. So by hammering it, I'm able to get it flat enough that my swivel cannot make it past the crimp. Alright, now that your loop is crimped off, the next step is going to be to slide a swivel onto your line. Alright, so now you're going to want to go down to the opposite end of your line and put another crimp on. And then take your weight, put your weight on the line, and then take your line back through the swivel. Again, you want to make sure that your tag end is pushed flush so that it's not going to get snagged on any decoys. Then you can grab your crimp and tighten down your line. Here you're going to want the weight to still be able to move around, but you're also not going to want your loop too big. So once you do one or two of these, you can compare them to another one that you've already done. That right there is about good. And then come over to your anvil and hammer it down again. Again, after hitting it a couple times, flip it over and hit the other side. Alright, so there we go. The weight is now crimped on. At the other end, we have the loop crimped on, and then we have the swivel that moves between the two of them. If you want to check and just make sure your crimps are good, you can hold on to the weight in one hand, put your thumb through the loop in your other hand, and just give it a nice stretch between the two of them. And as long as your line doesn't slide through the crimps, you should be good to go. So we're going to go put this on. Alright, so there you go. There's your finished rig. All you got to do is clip it on your decoy, throw it on a carabiner, and you're ready to go. Alright, so I hope this video helped you guys if you were interested in Texas rigging your decoys. If you have any questions about the process, just leave them down in the comments below and I'll answer them to the best of my ability. If this video did help you, make sure you leave it a like. It definitely helps me out a lot. And make sure you subscribe because I'm definitely going to be doing more review videos and more tips videos like this in the future. I'm also going to be doing a couple videos that might help some of you beginners that are new to waterfowl hunting. So make sure you guys stay tuned and thank you for watching.